Hey everyone, this is Mario again, coming at you with another movie review. Today I'm reviewing a movie that I reviewed a couple years ago, but that of course was on my old channel, and it's a film I mentioned a couple of videos ago that I was going to do a re-review of, because I recently revisited it. And of course it is the 1982 film, directed by both Frank Oz and Jim Henson, The Dark Crystal. Now, as you guys remember, this is the Blu-ray I got when I was in Jersey. Still haven't looked at a lot of the special features, but some of it I'd already seen, which I will mention it in this video, but that's later. Now, the plot, it's kind of a basic fantasy plot, I guess you could say kind of archetypal, so I don't really need to go into that much depth, and also I'm probably not going to because I don't want to spoil the movie for those of you who haven't seen it, but it takes place on a planet called, excuse me if I mispronounce this because it looks Thrara, or Thrur. The reason I'm having trouble is because it's T-H-R-A, so I don't know if it'd be Thrara. Yeah, probably Thrara. And as the narrator puts it, another time, another world, in the age of wonder. 1,000 years before the story begins, this crystal, which is the center of power for the planet, called the Dark Crystal, cracked. And when this happened, these different beings appeared. Groups of beings, I should say. The cruel Skeksis, which are basically like vulture-esque creatures, anthropomorphic vulture creatures. And the gentle Uru, or as the film calls them, mystics, which are basically also humanoid-like creatures. But, you know, as you see them on the cover. Those things. And they have like multiple arms, and they're very, you know, mystic-like. And of course they went their separate ways, and the castle, the crystal, the Skeksis have control. So they're basically ruling with an iron fist. And the planet around where they, at least around where they live, is desolate and dead. Well, it's 1,000 years later, obviously, and something called the Great Conjunction is going to be happening. It's something that happens once every 1,000 years. The three suns come together, and it does this massive beam of energy that goes right into the crystal. That's actually what caused the Skeksis and the Uru to appear in the first place, but there's a prophecy about it that when it happens again, that the crystal can be healed, and that the Skeksis and the Uru will be one again. As the prophecy says, when single shines the triple sun, what was sundered and outdone shall be made whole, the two made one, by Gelfling hand or else by none. And the Gelfling, they're basically this elf-like race that live on the planet. They're humanoid, the human-esque creatures in the movie. And there's only two left. The male Jen, who is our main protagonist, and the Chosen One. And a female that he meets throughout the course of the movie named Kira. Now, because of the prophecy many years before, most of the Gelflings were killed. And that's why you're going to guess the Skeksis are going to stop at nothing to get rid of both Jen and Kara before either of them can fulfill the prophecy. And that's basically the point of the movie, them both going to fulfill the prophecy. And of course, like I said, I'm going to take the piece of gum out. As I was saying, it's archetypal in that it follows the hero's journey motif to a T. Jen starts off, and it mentions that he's learned from his master, and his master is dying. So his relationship with his master is ending, so he has to go out into the world on his own, and he does that. And he's sent to get something from another person named Aughra, who is basically another humanoid-like creature with only one eye, so maybe like a little connection to the Sisters of Fate from Greek mythology there. And it never, even though she has a woman's voice, they never really state if it's a male or a female. And you can tell, just from what she lives in, that she is very intelligent. I mean, she lives in an observatory, and she has this model of the solar system in there, and also her discussion, the angle of eternity! Suns, moons, stars, and the whole speech. You can tell she's intelligent, but you can tell she also, I'm saying she because it's a female voice to make it simpler. More correctly it'd be it, but I'm just going to use she. But you can tell she does have kind of a short fuse, because Jen asks a couple questions, you can tell it irritates her a little bit. And of course, she's the one with the crystal shard, and that's all I'm going to mention about it. But he goes there. Follows the hero's journey motif, and by the end of the movie, he has to fulfill his destiny. If there's anyone that I'd specifically compare it to, it'd probably be Lord of the Rings, because it's the only other hero's journey that has a similar thing. Because every other one that's coming to mind has one thing that makes it different than this, and that is that the hero gains power, either because the character is a demigod, like in Greek mythology, or because of something else, like Star Wars follows the hero's journey, they have the Force, so the main character in both trilogies gains power. Naruto and Dragon Ball Z are both Japanese manga that follow the hero's journey motif, and the characters both gain power. Goku from the Super Saiyan ability, and Naruto from both Sage Chakra, and of course from the Nine-Tails Chakra. Bleach, I believe, might also follow it a little bit, but I'm not entirely sure because I'm not fully familiar with it. But same thing, also there. I think you might be able to say Pokemon. I will when I'm done. I'm busy at the moment. You know, saying Pokemon might, but kind of hard to say if it follows the hero's journey or not. Maybe the video game more than likely does than over the anime. Yes, I'm looking at my manga and stuff right now. Inuyasha definitely does, only in a different format, because they're trying to find something and not instead of going someplace. Okay. And like I said, Lord of the Rings is the closest one, and I guess I'm not the only one that made that comparison, because some of the critics mentioned it, which I'll get to that later. And of course, it's not that hard to see that. I mean, they both involve a character, like I said, that goes on a hero's journey, doesn't really gain any power, more like trust, belief in himself, I guess, is more what he gets, and embracing the destiny that he has to fulfill. And of course, he has to go into where the villains live and put an object someplace in order to fulfill his destiny. So, I guess with that, you can see kind of the connection. Now, our villains, the Skeksis, they very interesting looking. You could see that they are based off the 7 deadly sins. I mean, I didn't notice that as a kid. As an adult, though, upon getting that knowledge, I could see it. The most obvious one, of course, is the fat one, which it's kind of hard not to notice that he's based off gluttony. The other ones, it's kind of easy to see. I don't know what all the 7 sins are off the top of my head, so I'm not going to start listing off which is which. But it's kind of easy to see if you have like the list, or you know them off the top of your head, watch the movie, like, yep, that's wrath, that's envy, etc., etc. But the character, probably the Skeksis that are the most memorable are probably the Gartham Master, who of course is the main villain of the movie. He's the Emperor. The Chamberlain, who is our secondary villain, because he's kind of like a trickster character, you know, in another hero thing. And it's funny that they give him his own little cackle thing. It's like a and then how he moves, the way he moves is all slow and sly. So trickster. And also when he's interacting with the Gelflings, trickster. And then of course we got the priest one, who is like our third one, but you can tell that he's only in it for himself, which I can't really say anything without giving spoilers, but if you watch the movie you notice this. And the relationship between Jin and Kara, it's never stated, but you can tell by the end of the movie it's kind of romantic. Romantic as in love, what I mean. But it's more of a subtle thing at first, and then of course it gains more. And of course, if you think about it, eventually they'll have to, if they're the last Gelflings, if they want the race to continue, they have to at least be together that way. But hey, it's not something you think of as a kid when you watch this movie. Something you notice as an adult, like, yeah. One thing I will say that's very unique about this movie is the fact it's one of the few fantasy movies where we never see a human in the movie. We see humanoid characters, but everything in this movie is a practical effect or a set, which is part of the charm of this movie. Of course, and you should have figured it'd be like that because it's Jim Henson. Then again, if you see the trailer, you would figure that. But if you just hear, oh, it's Jim Henson, now there's gonna be people and Muppets. But then you see the trailer, like, yeah, there's not gonna be people. And of course, if this movie was made now, it'd probably be all CGI stuff, or it'd be all CGI animated, which it might still be good. But the charm of this movie is that it's all live action and all puppets. Like, it's kind of the charm to it. and you can really see where the entire $15 million budget went. And of course, this movie was only a moderate success. $15 million budget, only made $40 million total. I think that's its whole worldwide one, but I'm not sure. And part of that is because of its dark nature, which I hear parents complained about it. I'm like, this movie was dark to the point you had to complain. I think parents are probably just complaining for the sake of complaining, and that's just my opinion. And the other reason is because it was overshadowed by movies like Tootsie, which I've heard some things about. I want to give it a watch. And of course, the Spielberg movie E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which kind of ironic because in Japan, the Dark Crystal made more money than E.T., so kind of like, yeah, you wanted America, we wanted Japan. Wata! But kind of ironic that the Dark Crystal, one of my favorite movies of the 80s, was overshadowed by E.T. And another one of my favorite movies of the 80s, The Thing, was also overshadowed by E.T. E.T. would be in that same list, but I don't know. I actually want to do a top films list of the 80s, but I don't know how many it would be or something, but I'd like to get to it. Critics, for the most part, loved the movie, but there were the ones that did pan it said it was like J.R.R. Tolkien without the charm and the interest. I disagree with that. It's still charming and it's interesting. And like I said, you could compare it to Tolkien in that it follows a similar hero's journey motif, but a lot shorter for one. I guess that might interest more people because it's a lot shorter. Oh, there goes Odie. But for me, it was a great introduction to the hero's journey motif. Even if I didn't realize it as a kid, I notice it more now. And like I said, one of my favorite movies of the 80s. It's a childhood film that I enjoyed that still holds up. I'm glad I got the Blu-ray in my collection. It'd be better if it was a DVD, but hey, Blu-ray. And like The Thing, I will say again, it's a movie that seems to have gotten more respect since it's on video, because like I said, it was overshadowed, and of course those few critics that did bash it a little bit, that probably did not help its box office any. So at least it's getting the respect it deserves on video. And of course, there is plans for a sequel, we all know, which you guys know since I'm a fan of this movie. You're probably wondering my thoughts on that. My thoughts on that is, now, just let it go. I mean, we all know what Tron Legacy, even though I do enjoy that movie, I will say it is kind of a retread of the first movie. We saw what happened, how that performed. I'm gonna kill that dog, I swear to God. Odie! Wrong! Odie! No, it's just my brother coming in. I swear to God, that dog. Oh, feed him to Fezgig. Let's see how he barks. Anyway, where was I? Dang, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, there's gonna be a big laugh. Yeah, I really did. That sucks. I'm 13 minutes into the review and I've already lost my train of thought. But I think I was talking about it having the movie now getting respect on it. Oh yeah, the sequel. Now, as I was saying, we saw with Tron what happened, and I don't want that to happen to another film I love from the 80s. So I think it's time for them to let the sequel go, because it keeps getting, we're gonna make it. No, it's on hold. We gotta make it. It's on hold, and the plot I hear sounds interesting, but it does sound like it's just gonna be another retread of the first movie. I mean, if they want to make another movie, make an adaptation of the manga that actually finishes that story, because the last volume was cancelled for some reason, and when I remember flipping through the 2 volumes, it was on a cliffhanger. There was more to do. I mean, that manga that they actually did that was a prequel actually was interesting, showing a little bit more of Gelfling culture, as well as talking a little bit more about Skeksis' interaction with the Gelfling. And if they want to do it, have it lead up to the prophecy, and then like end on if they want to end on a cliffhanger, have it end where the Skeksis find out, and then the Emperor does his declaration, and then it leads into the first movie. That would be interesting, at least for me anyway. And if they don't want to do that, if they want to do more stuff, why don't they follow the Star Wars route, do more like an expanded universe, which would be kind of ironic considering Frank Oz is involved, and we all know who Frank Oz was in Star Wars. Do or do not. There is no try. And also a little bit more ironic considering that Gary Kurtz produced this movie. Anyway, my rating for The Dark Crystal is a 4.5 out of 5. Like I said, I consider it to be a classic film of the 80s. It's a great fantasy film. I do want to get the novelization in my collection because I've actually heard some of it read already. Sounds pretty good.